All right, we are live. Welcome to those of you that are joining us for our lunchtime chat today. Please sit tight. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. We're going to let people start joining and come on in and get comfortable. So if you're just joining us, it would be fun if you put your place of residence in the chat, in the comments section, so that we could see where everyone's coming from. I don't see anybody yet. Sometimes it takes a few minutes for all of the different platforms to get going. If you're just joining us, come on in, and if you'd like, you can put your name and your place of residence in the comments section, and we can welcome you. Thanks so much for joining us today. Okay, welcome to Zach from Staunton. We're excited to have you here today. We have some great guests for our lunchtime chat, and we'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. Welcome, Maria from Charleston, South Carolina. It's good to have you here. We'll be getting started with our chat in just a couple minutes once people can join on all of our different platforms. Hi, Chris from Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Dan from Utah. Welcome. Welcome, Susan from New York, Westchester County. I have family from there. Jeanette from Pennsylvania. We'll be starting our chat with Rick and LaJoy here in just a couple of minutes. Welcome, Dee from Florida. And Evelyn from Mississippi. This is great. We have quite the range of audience members, pretty much coast to coast. Evelyn from Mississippi. We'll be getting started in just a minute or so. Come on in and get comfortable. I'm excited to be able to talk to Rick Murphy and LaJoy Mosby today. Welcome, Lynette from California and Belle from North Carolina. So, yeah, we definitely have coast to coast now. Come on in, and we'll be starting in just about a minute. I'm really looking forward to this chat. Welcome, Leola from California also. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Roots to Freedom, celebrating Juneteenth with Family Search and Roots Tech. My name is Julia Anderson, and I'm an accredited genealogist and research specialist at the Family Search Library in Salt Lake City, specializing in research in the United States, specifically Southern and African American research. In honor of Juneteenth, every Wednesday during the month of June, I'll be hosting lunchtime chats with leading experts on African American heritage and genealogy. Today, I'm here with Rick Murphy and LaJoy Mosby, and we will be talking about African American societies and how they're connecting people who are interested in discovering more about their African American heritage. Rick is the President General of the Society of First African Families of English America, and LaJoy is the President of the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society. Since it's actually Juneteenth today, before we get into the details about your societies, I wanted to ask each of you what the significance of Juneteenth is and what it means to you. Rick, will you start?
First of all, thank you for having us. It's an honor to be here, particularly on Juneteenth and particularly at lunchtime. Juneteenth means to me the ancestors who arrived 400 years ago in 1619, the ancestors who became enslaved under the 1705 slave codes, where all of our rights were stripped from us, including the right to read, the right to own property, even the right to own our own selves and our children. Juneteenth means to me the American Revolution, where over 10,000 Black men, women, and children fought to fight for the freedom of a new nation, only to find out they themselves didn't have those same rights afterwards. Juneteenth means to me the ancestors, the 200,000 men who fought in the Civil War to protect the Union and to free the enslaved here in the United States and beyond. Juneteenth means to me the struggles of our ancestors during the Jim Crow era and the challenges we face today, and hopefully the challenges that our descendants won't have to face in the future. So Juneteenth is about the past, the present, and the future.
Thank you, Rick. That's very inspiring. LaJoy, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, again, thank you for inviting us to be here. It is also a pleasure to be here. To me, Rick has said quite a bit, so I'm going to sum it up. To me, Juneteenth is a time for celebration, as well as a time for reflection on the lives of our ancestors and our growing need to continue to elevate and honor them, as well as African American history and culture overall.
Wow, thank you so much. That's very, very inspiring. Juneteenth is a pretty new holiday. Rick, where do you think it'll be 50 years from now?
Well, it's a new holiday only from the perspective of being recognized by the federal government. Juneteenth has been recognized for all intents and purposes since 1865. So for many of us, it's not a new holiday. But where I think it will be 50 years from now, hopefully it will be a reflection of the major accomplishments we've made in terms of equality for all. Equality in education, equality in housing, and certainly equality in terms of one's bank accounts. So hopefully 50 years from now, we will look back in reflection that we did the right things today to set the path for those in the future not to endure the challenges and the discrimination that we faced in the past and that we face presently.
Very good. LaJoy, do you agree with that?
Well, of course, I agree with that, but I'd like to also hope that Juneteenth becomes totally, I should say, integrated into our school curriculum, into our everyday lives, that in the same way that we have, or rather grew up celebrating 4th of July, Juneteenth becomes a celebration for not only African Americans, but Americans as a whole, to celebrate the end of enslavement and just freedom for Americans of African descent.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. Let's go back to our point of our discussion today about societies. Genealogical, historical, and lineage societies provide a way people with common interests or ancestry can collaborate on research projects and do some networking. Rick, can you tell us a little about your society, maybe how it got started and what its mission is?
Well, it's an honor to be here with the president of the Afro-American Historical Genealogical Society, because that's the birth of the Society of the First African Families of English America. In 2019, as OGS presented to the nation and to the world the importance of the 400th commemoration of the arrival of the first Africans, we decided to take that important milestone and turn it into something meaningful, something different, and begin to recognize the descendants of those that were the founders of America, who came here in 1619 all the way through the American Revolution. 2/3 of our ancestors were here. And most people don't realize that, number one, our ancestors were here, but more important, the perseverance and the major contributions they made to the founding of this nation. So that really was the genesis of the beginning of the society, but it also provides an opportunity for members to document their ancestors, to research, document, and get their ancestors peer-reviewed and certified, so future generations will understand the historical importance of those that arrived here in the earliest days of the founding of the nation.
Great. They sure made a lot of sacrifices for their descendants. LaJoy, can you tell us about your society?
Sure.
What is its mission and what does it include?
Well, OGS as an organization began in 1977 when James Dent Walker, who was our founder and the initial president of our organization, joined with a diverse group of 6 other genealogists and historians who are prolific in their own right to create a society that was largely focused on the family history and genealogy of underrepresented groups that had been overlooked over time. And during that time, you may recall, Roots was out, and Mr. Walker had worked with Alex Haley during that time. And so the goal was to create this society that had a focus on African ancestor genealogy and history, with the idea that we could teach people how to do their family research, how to do genealogy, and to understand the historical aspects of of what was going on at the time when their families were here in the United States, and even before there was a United States, what their families were doing and the historical context in which those persons lived. Uh, we really focus on creating this network of persons that have similar interests, and we really do want to assist them, and not only doing research but documenting their family histories. And I think we've done that over the past 47 years.
I've noticed that OGS is very inclusive. Is membership open to everyone?
Yes, we've always been inclusive. We, as I said, we had a diverse group of founders. We have 3 still with us, and there was always a diverse group of charter members. So we are open to anyone who's interested in African ancestor genealogy and beyond. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And Rick, your society is a little bit different, being a lineage society. Can you tell us who membership is for?
Well, anyone can join our society regardless of race or ethnic background or education or social economic conditions. The only criteria is that you have to be able to descend from a person of African ancestry, again, from the period of 1619 to the end of the Revolutionary War. So we also have a diverse membership so long as they meet that criteria.
Great. So how is the First African Families of English America supporting individuals and families as they're trying to connect their ancestors? Do you provide consultations or help?
We, like most organizations, have an annual conference. At our conference, we honor men, women, and children in the present and the past who have made tremendous contributions to society. We have a summit where we address issues of how to change the perception of Americans of African descent. We're in the process of putting together a comprehensive database. So those who think that they descend from someone during that time period, in the reality, almost every American of African descent descends from someone from that time period, since 2/3 of our ancestors were here. We help to re-educate people, minority and majority, in terms of the importance of Americans of African descent. Our historians and our teachers led us to believe that our lives begun during the Civil War, when the reality is that we were true founders of America, and we're the second indigenous people here. So we really try to take the legal documents that are found all over the country, bring those legal documents to life, and help people understand the role that their ancestors played, and help others understand the importance of our ancestors to the founding of this nation.
That sounds like a really valuable resource. Thank you. LaJoy, what is OGS doing to bring people together?
Well, we feel like we bring people together in a variety of ways. Well, as you know, we have chapters nationwide. And so our chapters meet regularly to provide our members and the public with information and to do family research as well. And they participate in a variety of projects. They partner with local historical societies, museums, other genealogical societies within their counties and state levels. We have educational programming, not only at the chapter level, but at the national level as well. We have monthly virtual programming that we do. We have a national conference that brings people together. We've hosted a national conference since 1980, and we went virtual in 2020, and we'll be virtual this year. Our conference is October the 10th through the 12th, and we'll be back in person next year. We also have award-winning publications that our peer-reviewed journal and our OGS newsletter, which I must say just won the NGS award for the society newsletters with memberships over 500. Very proud of that. The journal submissions are open to non-members, but only OGS members can submit articles for the newsletter. So we try to promote these chapter and national events, and we're looking at ways to also support our members through virtually through our informational emails, through our website platform. We have a brand new one with plenty of wonderful information there that we feel allows people to enhance their family research skills.
Wonderful. Excellent resources that are available through OGS. Thank you so much for sharing that. Rick, has your society been involved in any collaborative projects with other societies or groups?
Oh, absolutely. We're I tried to say inundated, but no, we're overwhelmed with the support that we have received from other historical, genealogical, and lineage societies, particularly through our collaborations. Right now, one of our major projects is the Forgotten Patriots Project. And some of your listeners may not know who the Forgotten Patriots are, but they were men, women, and children of African and indigenous descent who served in the American Revolution. It's our intent to bring the lives of those men, women, and children to the forefront, particularly as we approach America 250. We have collaborations with organizations such as OGS. OGS is a huge collaborator. We meet every week, and they're part of that group that meets with the Sons of the American Revolution, the Sons of the Revolution, the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Colonial Society. So we have a lot of collaborations with historical groups and genealogical societies across the country to help us bring to life those men, women, and children, and help explain the American Revolution through the lives of those Black men, women, and children, and indigenous who also served in the war. So our collaborations help strengthen us, helps bring new light and life to what we're doing, but also helps to carry the message of the importance of our ancestors going through the period of history, but also to the different communities across the country.
Thank you. I can see how that collaboration can be really beneficial. LaJoy, are there other projects that OGS is collaborating with?
Sure. Well, we participated in the launch of 10 Million Names, and we are a supporter of that project. Of course, we're a longtime partner with Family Search. We actually worked on the Freedom Bureau Records transcription project with Family Search in times past. But we've also partnered with a variety of organizations and entities. For example, we did a World War II Black Liberators project with the Embassy of the Netherlands. Most recently, we participated in a transcription project called the Civil War Blue Jackets with the Northumbria University in the UK, transcribing Civil War Navy muster rolls. And we were able to identify African Americans who had served in the Union Navy during the Civil War. We participated in Douglas Day, which is on Valentine's Day, with the Library of Congress. And of course, we collaborated with the National Genealogical Society on the development of the James Denton Walker series of workshops. And there are other collaborations that we do with other groups over time, but those are the major ones that come to mind.
I would be remiss if I did not say that Family Search is in fact one of our sponsors and one of our collaborators on our Forgotten Patriots project. And if you go to our website, you'll see the full list of all the different organizations that we collaborate with.
Yes.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, those collaborations are really valuable to genealogists. A lot of people think that there aren't any records for African American ancestors, and they just don't realize that they exist, but they're hard to access. And so your efforts are bringing those to the forefront, and it's incredible. I see this work just exploding in the future as new technologies come and we have the ability to make those records available. So thank you. LaJoy, how can people get involved in your society? How can they help if they're interested?
Oh, we welcome that. So you can go to our website, which is aahgs.org, and you can join our society, and you can join a local chapter if you'd like. You can look at the events that are on our events calendar. We welcome volunteers. We're always looking for people to volunteer on our various projects. on our national committees. You can do those virtually from the comfort of your own home. But if you are located in a place where we have a chapter, an active chapter, you can certainly go attend a chapter meeting and participate in the local projects that the chapters have going on. And there's so many different ones going all over the place. We applaud our members and the level of participation that they do on both the local and national level. Or you can email us at info@augs.org, and we will certainly get back to you with ways that we can help you, and perhaps you can help us.
Thank you. How about you, Rick? How can people get involved and help with your projects?
Well, much like Joy, we have a robust website. You can visit us at sofafea.org and see some of the offerings that we have. We're very concerned about making sure that as we are an embracive organization, that folks clearly understand that there are many ways that can help us. They certainly can help us in terms of building out curriculum. We have a curriculum team that's looking at how do we address the inadequacies of present-day curriculum, particularly in terms of how it addresses Americans of African descent, particularly during the colonial period. We have a journal, and we look forward to scholarly articles in our journal. Oftentimes, the journal is predicated on family trees, where folks have documented, had peer-reviewed, and had it approved lineages that go back to the early period. We're also very much interested in the history of local counties, in the role of early Americans of African descent who lived in those colonial communities. And while I keep using the word colonial, I do that because 2/3 of our ancestors, that's when they were here. They were here at the very beginning, even before the nation was a nation. So it's really important that we begin to understand that we don't start just at the Civil War. We really need to begin to look at the colonial period, and those records are there. And as a genealogist, when I did my genealogical work, it was done before computers and technology, and I found a lot of my documentation. But places like Family Search and other organizations that are digitizing those records, it's so important to go to those records, find your ancestors, find your people, and see how they contributed to the growth and the founding of this nation.
Thank you. I hope our listeners today and those that watch this recording will feel like they can provide some help and get involved. Those are some really, really great projects. Rick, where do you see your society maybe 5 or 10 or 15 years down the road?
Well, we're not quite as old and mature as OGS, and OGS has a long-standing reputation in the historical genealogical community, and we support that, and we strive to be like them in a short period of time. I think in the next 5 years, you will hear more and more about the Lineage Society, like the DAR or the SAR. We have an awful lot of people who come to us on a daily, weekly basis, submitting their paperwork, trying to document their family lineages. So we really embrace that. So we hope 5 years from now that instead of having hundreds of members, we have thousands of members, because that means that it's resonated what we're talking about. And all of these disparate families have come forward to bring the stories and the contributions and the history of their ancestors. We want to make sure that what we're doing filters into the schools. It's important that our young people and those from different communities across the country understand that we are Americans of African descent. And it's very important that we and they and all of us understand that we were major contributors to the founding of the nation. And I don't think that's the case right now. So it's really important for us as we look down the road 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that we begin to change the thinking of who we are as a people, but more important, the contributions of our ancestors. And hopefully our descendants in the future will inherit a much richer historical perspective of who their ancestors were.
Thank you. I think that's so important. LaJoy, where do you see your society in the future?
Well, I see us growing, continuously growing. We have about 2,000 members now. Of course, I'd like to see 10 times more in 5 to 10 years. I'd love to see us have full-time staff and more robust offerings for our active members and just more educational opportunities for the public. If it was up to me, every African American household would be researching their family history. Every African American household would understand how important it is to research your family history, to have an idea of what came before you, to know the not only the challenges but the triumphs of those who came before you, to understand that there was joy in the midst of pain, and that there was there's this wonderful, wonderful legacy that we all have. Everyone has a story to tell. You don't need to be a celebrity. Everybody has a story to tell. Everybody had a position in their community where it may have only been known to their small community, that they were the person to go to in their community. And you won't know that unless you do your research and find out about how your ancestors came forward, so that it can give you some idea of who you are. That's a genetic makeup that comes down through the generations. It gives you an idea of of the person that you are, and perhaps the future generations. Mhm.
And
Thank you so much.
if I can follow up on that, if I might, and I think LaJoy touched on something really important. For every Frederick Douglass that we read about, and most folks think when it comes to famous Americans of African descent, there's a Frederick Douglass. There are probably 50 more who came before him in different communities that we don't hear about.
Yeah.
For every single Harriet Tubman that we read about, there are probably 50 more women of African descent who took that same journey. For every famous baseball player or basketball player or football player or politician or historical figure, there are so many others in communities all across the country that we don't know about. And the time has come that we begin to embrace them and cherish their history and their accomplishments. So I think organizations such as ours, that's what we really want to make sure that we are 5 years from now, that everybody begins to realize that there's somebody in your family who is that famous person who broke the color line or did whatever that was important to change things. That's what we're hoping to get for in the future, next 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's such a deep human longing to connect with your family and to find out about your roots. And I really appreciate both of you being here today. I think we just have a couple minutes for questions. So if you have a question for Rick or LaJoy, please put it in the chat. We have a few in here. Avi asks, Dr. Rick, have you heard of Ashworth Act? Was an act that was passed by the Texas Senate on December 12th, 1840. It made the Ashworth family and all free persons of color and emancipated slaves. Is that something that you're familiar with? I haven't heard of that.
Well, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is a number of the states passed similar legislation that, for whatever the reasons may be, emancipated individual family members for any number of reasons. And I think that really is the testament to the fact that families were freed before the Civil War, and that those accomplishments that those families had or made were recognized. But it's important that we take all of these acts and begin to really explore the totality of enslavement, number one, and why those acts were necessary to free these people when everyone should have been freed long before the Emancipation Proclamation and the various amendments after the Civil War. So the answer is yes, but there were several of those across other states as well.
Thank you. We've had several requests for both of you to repeat your website information. So LaJoy, will you go first?
Sure. So OGS is H is in Harry, G is in George, S is in Sarah, .org. OGS.org.
And ours is SOFA, like sofa you would sit on, FEA.org, for the Society of the First African Families of English America. So if you type that in the URL, it will take you automatically to our website. And again, it's SOFA, SOFA, FEA.org.
Thank you. I put both of those in the chat, so hopefully you can see those. Let's see if we have any other questions here. We have lots of great comments. People are really happy with the words that you have shared. I don't see any questions per se. Rick, do you have any last words that you'd like to give our audience about your society or Juneteenth or anything? What would you like them to remember?
Well, I think Juneteenth is a new holiday.
Mm-hmm.
It's being defined. It's being redefined.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, this is an opportunity for each of us to define the true meaning of Juneteenth. And again, I think it really is reflecting upon the ancestors. Is it reflecting upon the fact that men, women, and children were emancipated, but it took the United States colored troops as liberators to go to a particular state to free them. And the question is, are we really free today as we hear the dialogue that's going about? So Juneteenth needs to be defined very clearly so that generations to come really understand the importance of the day, the importance of the holiday, and the importance why this day came about.
Thank you, Rick. We've just had a question come in for LaJoy from Dean. It says, will LaJoy tell the audience why OGS chose the theme Fighting Erasure for the 2024 conference?
Well, given the variety of, shall I say, things that are happening nationwide that are seeking to marginalize, diminish African American history and genealogy, we thought it was important to have a theme for our conference this year that knows that we're fighting erasure for any state that passed or any entity that passed a law or a statement that where they don't want to focus on African American history. We want our genealogy. We want people to understand that African American genealogy and history is intrinsically intertwined within the American story. There is no American story without African Americans. And we will continue to elevate. We will continue to make clear that the lives of our ancestors are important. The history of our people are important. That we will sing the praises of our ancestors and African American history loud and clear, and try to strive to have everyone understand why it's important. It's not a matter of being more important than anyone else, but it needs to be noted that it is important, and it is so intertwined in the whole American experience. The idea of trying to remove it is just unconscionable. We just don't want that to happen. We don't want that to. We want everybody to understand that it's important that that not happen, and that we take a concerted effort to continually elevate and promote African American history and African American genealogy nationwide.
Thank you. Beautifully said. It's a very intentional effort that we need to make. So our time is up for today. This concludes our third Roots to Freedom Celebrating Juneteenth Lunchtime Chat. Please join me next week at 11 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time when I discuss the International African American Museum with Brian Sheffy and Dr. Shelley Viola Murphy. And don't forget to check out the Juneteenth at Family Search Roots Tech page for ongoing events and presentations all month long as we celebrate African American heritage and freedom. For instance, tomorrow I'll be giving a live presentation on African American records and strategies. I'd love to have you join us. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week.